Firstly, I'd like to thank the Deanery for giving me the opportunity to present this work. My name is Matthew, I'm one of the ST3s at Guys and St Thomas's, and as someone who has a keen interest in medical education, this is some pilot work that we've done, or I've done really, looking at what impact the undergraduate attachment has on the future career choice of our trainees. And these are our students mainly coming through from KCL. So I'd like to give you a bit of background looking at what the trend has been in O&G. And over the last 30 years, really, we've seen historically there are far fewer graduates that are choosing O&G as their first career choice. And it's particularly really acute within the men specialty. So this is data here that was published by the college back in 2002. And this was graduates asked what their first choice of career was likely to be in obs and gynae. So you can see only about 4.5% of graduates in 74 were male choosing obs and gynae, and that number shrank dramatically in 2002 to less than 1%. You can also see the number of, for females has also dropped, but not so significantly. We don't have much more up-to-date data showing the new recruitment system and what's happening, but I think this is very representative of what is still going on. What we also know from the undergraduate experience, this is some sort of work that was published in the BJOG, was that in obs and gynae in particular, this is very true for craft specialties like surgery, that the student attachment affects long-term career choice for obs and gynae trainees much more than in other specialties. If then we look at what's going on at undergraduate level, and this is some data that was again publicised by the college. So this is, if you take two medical schools here, Birmingham and Newcastle, so they had a similar number of graduates that were qualifying in 2000, and they were asked at the point of graduation what was the most likely specialty they were going to pursue. And you can see across here in Birmingham about 3.5% of the graduates that think about O&G. Well, why should someone at Newcastle of a similar size standing, why should there be 10 times fewer people thinking about doing obs and gynae from that institution? And I think a lot of this has to do with what the impact that the undergraduate attachment has and how students make their career choice. We also know that clinical attachments are becoming much shorter and much amalgamated. And certainly within our institution, students study obs and gynae along with sexual health and gun, and they're spending far less time on the traditional attachments. There's also a greater focus from the student point of view at exam performance. And students now are grading how they do in their examinations at an undergraduate level and what foundation year 1 and 2 jobs they will get. So the question of whether they're going to spend more time doing book work and getting the value experience that you can only get being on the lay board or being in the gynae operating theatres. And also, we've heard the new system about MMC that's come in. Well, one of the things that Jane didn't mention was people are really committed to making a career choice at a much earlier stage. And if you look at the moment, most people will be forced to make that choice about 14 months after qualification. And there's not that opportunity now for people to go in and see what doing 6 months of obs and gynae is like. It's quite unique to find someone who's done something a bit different if you look at our trainees who are coming through now. So I think that's something that's got to be addressed as well. So taking this all in context, this study design was an anonymous web-based questionnaire that was sent to all our year 4 medical students at KCL. It consists of 26 questions, the majority of which were Likert-based, and students were asked to rank a level of agreement on 1 to 5 in a group of statements they were given. Those sort of areas that were covered included team working, enthusiasm of the junior and consultant staff, and perceived work-life balance in obs and gynae. So looking at some of those results that we achieved, well, there was a response rate of 58%. So we got 72 out of 125 people who were doing obs and gynae at that time to apply, and 2/3 of respondents were female, and that's pretty much representative of the demographic of what we at KCL. Over a third of students at the point of filling out this questionnaire still felt unsure about a committed career choice that they would make. However, those 2/3 who felt they couldn't make a career choice at this stage, over 70% of them had said that it was at the point of completing that clinical attachment that they'd made a choice about a future career. So we really need to be embedding and focusing on the student attachment and spending time on that, because this is something that students really latch onto. Ooh, I'm not sure what's happening. My slides have disappeared. Okay. That's disappeared several slides. There are 3 key areas that students identified. They were the variety of the specialty offers, the impact of positive role models, and the impact on women's health. And these were 3 key areas that students felt were most attractive to doing obs and gynae. However, when asked, nearly a third of students reported they didn't feel part of the team. Well, how many of you here could reflect on that comment in the same way with our training that we don't feel part of the team? So how are our medical students going to feel that they are a valuable part of the team? I think that's something that we need to try and look at further. Also, when students were asked about work-life balance, only a quarter felt that O&G consultants had a positive work-life balance. And two of the biggest barriers for students to pursuing a career in O&G were the perceived shift patterns, so working long nights, working weekends, and the balance of demands of balancing a specialty with having a family. So in conclusion, I think we really need to focus our aims now, attracting junior doctors to O&G at an undergraduate level, investing more time in the clinical attachments. This study, on my slide, that didn't work unfortunately, was showing how important positive role models were for attracting students. And this is something really important across specialties like O&G and surgery, that people can identify someone early on, even as a student, they can identify who's a possible mentor, and this makes a really positive reinforcement for them, and then can go on to them pursuing that career. But as a profession, how do we demonstrate that you can have a work-life balance? And I think this is something the college should try to address in one of the new documents that's produced recently about having a work-life balance as a consultant. But we need to filter this down to a much more junior level to make it aware to our medical students that you can actually have a good work-life balance and pursue and be very successful in your career in O&G. And just to say that I hope your work balance isn't over here on this slide, I'm sure it isn't. But thank you very much, and I'll take any questions.
Any questions? Okay, well I've got one that's burning me up. You showed quite a dramatic reduction actually between 96 and 99. Why do you think that was in the uptake of O&G as a career?
Maybe that was the Calman training that was coming in reduced numbers. I think there was a...
Calman training came in before 96 because I was caught in Calman.
I can't remember. You might be able to...
I think it's because in 1999 was when there were no consultant posts. Between 1999 and 2000, it was very hard to get a consultant job, and that message was going out to trainees. It was not a career to go into. And the reason that's important is I don't think we should be encouraging students. What do you think? Because we are now training too many.
I agree. I think the workforce planning is something that the college is trying to tap into. And I think if you look at the numbers this year of juniors we have recruited, there were 46. I think at the time I applied, there was something like 70.
There were 67.
Okay.
There were 67 in North East Thames and KSS, and there were 51 in London and 16 in KSS. It's exactly the same.
So at the end of the day, we have a service to run, so we have to have people who are people there to provide that service for our patients.
Yeah. Anyway, I don't want to...
Don't we want the best training? So we want to attract as many people as possible to apply because we want the best people to come into O&G.
Absolutely.
And then we get to hand-pick the ones who are the best.
Absolutely. But the risk is that if I overproduce it, we're going to actually... It's the overproduction will have a worse effect on the popularity of the specialty. You said that you didn't think the data had changed since 2002. I've sat on interview panels ever since 2002, and the quality of graduate coming into O&G is dramatically different in 2012 than what it was in 2002. It's a huge difference, hugely better. It's very, very competitive now. It's very difficult to get into. Most of you who are in training are a lot better than the people who are post-CCT, at least at the beginning.
I'll jump ship when it gets controversial.
Do you think the alteration in the attitudes of the midwives and
Oh, sorry, yeah, my slide that didn't work. Okay, that was quite important. There was a slide that didn't work. So there was that didn't come up. I don't know why that was. That was technical reasons. So when we looked at questioning our male medical students, so in my over half of male medical students had a negative impact, which they attributed to their gender during the attachment. That was one of the really strong things that came across. And they were able to give free text, so give comments. And a lot of the comments were, well, there were things like, well, you don't. The midwife has said to them, well, you don't want a male medical student with you. We've already got other midwifery students here. They take precedent. And that is something which is quite difficult, I think, for a male medical student to argue with. One of the other things that was said, one of the free text comments was that a female medical student got told, well, she wanted to get on in this profession, she needs to start power dressing and wear heels and make a bit more effort to present herself in the morning. And that was verbatim comment that she was told by a consultant. So I think we just need to be very, very sensitive about what we say to our students, because they can pick up on these comments very, very easily.